Hi, I'm Heather. Welcome to class. Today we're going to do a forward bending sequence. Before we begin, if you find this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's start in Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog pose. So we come onto the knees and stretch forward to mark the distance that we want to take between the hands and the feet. Broaden the palms as you spread the fingers. And just spend a moment here allowing the hips to flex, the lower back to lengthen, because part of being in a forward bend is allowing for there to be a level of flexion in the spine. So we feel that subtle flexion as the tailbone curls down, gentle rounding through the lower back, middle back, upper back. And we'll transition to Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog pose. Inhale, shoulders forward, tuck your toes. Exhale, lift your hips, straight arms, straight legs, and straight spine. So earlier when we were in that kneeling pose, I was saying exploring the gentle flexion in the spine, but now in dog pose, the spine is not flexing, it's straightening. So you can keep the heels up, magnify the lift of the sitting bones so that your lower back can move in, middle back, upper back moving in, rather than bulging out behind you. Slowly we'll descend the heels. Now as you descend the heels, take care, if you do feel stiff in the back of the legs, watch that you're not letting your ambition to move the heels down or get the heels to touch the floor get in the way of you keeping your back straight. Find that happy medium where perhaps the heels are floating a little bit, but you're able to maintain the lift of the sit bones, which helps you keep your back straight. And so one of the reasons we're doing dog pose at the beginning of a forward bending practice is to define the length in the back of the legs. So you feel that sitting bones lift, hamstrings lengthen. Now let's walk the hands back to the feet. Feet hip width apart. Come onto the fingertips. Now if you do feel stiff, you can use bricks underneath your hands so that you're up a little bit higher, whether it's stiff in the hamstrings or stiff in the lower back, or perhaps there's an injury in your lower back that you need to take care of. So if that's the case, you need to tread carefully when you come into your forward bends. So for some, it's better to stay with the spine straight. You're looking forward, breastbone forward, particularly if there's an injury or concern in the lower back. Others, you may be able to go a bit deeper. Perhaps you take your hands out onto the floor on either sides of the mat, bend the elbows, and fold more deeply down into Uttanasana. But you keep the kneecaps gripped, you keep the quadriceps active, and the knees straight. So we're not wanting to flex forward and down if we're bending the knees. If you're having to bend the knees because you feel stiff, come upright and put your hands on bricks to straighten your knees. Otherwise, we spend a few breaths here. And you draw the shoulder blades up the back, away from the head, towards the hips. Now we look forward again. We're going to walk the hands forward for our dog pose and keep your feet where they were. Perhaps the heels need to lift a little bit if you do feel stiff in the legs. But now we're going to stride the right foot forward between the hands for Parsvottanasana, the side intense stretch pose. So you look forward, you can swing the shoulders forward as you step right foot forward. Now you might note I'm lifting the heel of my right hand and coming onto the right fingertips as I step right foot forward. And that helps me lift the rib cage up enough that my thigh can come underneath my torso. Then come onto the fingertips or use bricks under your hands if you feel stiff. Keep the back heel up and straighten the front leg. So as you straighten the front leg, pressurize the inner right foot down, lengthen the breastbone forward, shoulder tips back towards your hips. And can you roll the inner left thigh back? Bend the right knee. Flatten the palms to the floor, step back for your dog pose. Left leg forward, inhale, and again you can lift up onto the left fingertips so that helps you lift the rib cage up enough that your leg can fit underneath the torso. Then you come onto the fingertips, you keep the back heel up. Spin the inner right thigh back as you straighten the left leg. Again, if you're stiff, use bricks underneath your hands. But as you straighten the left leg, pressurize the ball of the left big toe down so that inner hand is down and draw the outer left hip back. Sternum forward, shoulder tips back. Then bend the knee, flatten the palms to the floor, step back, dog pose. And let's go again, right leg. So you look forward. Step right foot forward. Now let's spin the left heel back to the floor. It needs to go across to the right side of the mat somewhat. And as you plug the back heel, straighten the right knee, but spin the inner left thigh back and draw the outer right hip back. Then can you keep pressure through the inner right foot? Back heel is plugged. Can you go further into your forward bend? Perhaps you walk the hands back towards the left foot and you come down over the leg, forward towards the shin, but the legs are staying strong and straight. Keep the grip of the kneecaps. Then you bend the knee, flatten the palms, step the right leg back, dog pose. Left leg forward, inhale, spread the toes and pivot the right heel back to the floor. The right heel goes across to the left side of the mat enough that you can plug that heel down. And as you straighten the left leg, you're drawing outer left hip back, but pressurizing inner left foot down. At the same time, you're spinning this inner right thigh back. Then if you can go deeper, you walk the hands further back towards the right foot. Perhaps you flatten the palms, lengthen yourself along the leg, forward towards your shin. Bend the knee. Hands to the mat for your dog pose. Stride back. Left leg steps back. Back in your dog pose. Lift the sitting bones. Breathe smoothly. Now step the feet together. Walk your hands back to the legs. We'll come more into Uttanasana in the classic presentation of the pose. In Mr. Iyengar's book, Light on Yoga, the legs are together. And again, if you're stiff, you're protecting your lower back from injury, you stay forward. Keep lengthening the sternum forward. But those who can go deeper, bring your hands back alongside the feet, or perhaps even further back. Can you flatten the palms into the floor and lengthen the torso along the thighs, head in towards your shins. Try not to lean back too much into the heels. Keep weight in the balls of the feet and the toes. Then raise the head up. We're going to bend the knees and come into Malasana. Now this is where the heels might want to lift up a little bit. Let's explore. As long as your knees are willing to come into this flexion, just explore. Do the heels want to lift up when you come into a squat? If they do, that's okay. We're going to work with a bit of support under the heels in a moment. But let's come back to Uttanasana, legs straight. Fold down into the legs. Again, Malasana. So exploring your squat, provided the knees and the hips are willing. At this stage, we're keeping the knees together and the ankle bones together. So those inner feet are in contact. And even if the heels lift, we're just exploring that. Let's come back into Uttanasana. Fold into the legs. And once more, Malasana. And Uttanasana. Now for Malasana, if our heels lifted, let's get a blanket to put underneath the heels. So we have some height, whatever height you need, depending on how tight you feel the Achilles tendons or the calf muscles are. We come back down into our squat. And this time we're going to separate the knees. So those inner feet are together. You've got the big toes touching and the inner heels together. The inner ankles will separate as the knees separate, and reach forward. Walk your hands forward, and here's where you allow the spine to flex. Yeah, no longer you're trying to keep your back straight. Draw the chest through. So now think about the armpit chest coming through between the inner legs, and you can gently squeeze the inner legs back against the side body. Perhaps if you're forward enough in your flexion, you can bend your upper arms, bend the elbows, bring your upper arms against the shin bone. So very top part of that upper arm bone, pressing against the shin bone, head down. We're exploring, yes, there's definitely knee flexion, hip flexion, some spinal flexion as we're coming to do some seated forward bends. Then raise the head up, come up all the way, and let's sit back on our blanket and we'll stretch the legs forward. Dandasana. Fingertips to the floor. Lift up the chest. So in Dandasana, we're rolling the inner thighs down, keeping those inner feet in contact. Now, similar to Malasana, where we had the body coming through between the legs, let's do Marichyasana number 1. Now, the challenge can be getting the body forward in this pose. So using more height can be really helpful. Let's give ourselves a good amount of height. So if you've got the capacity to have a 4-fold blanket, do that. Or use your bricks to sit on. You can have 2 bricks there underneath the buttocks. But from Dandasana, bend up the right leg and take your outer foot in line with the outer hip. That may be enough to give us room for the rib cage to come through inside the leg. Try not to turn the leg out though. Keep your toes pointing forward. And then we let that knee move to the side enough that as we reach the right hand forward, you don't have to go for the left foot per se, but you're reaching forward enough that this rib cage, now the armpit chest area, comes inside the right leg. Then you squeeze the inner right leg back against the side body as you pressurize the inner right foot down. So exploring coming forward inside the right leg. And if you have got the body through enough, you'll feel the top part of that upper arm bone come in front of the shin bone. So when you bend your when you bend your elbow, the upper right arm, the back of the arm comes against the shin bone, and we want to internally rotate the arm, wrap the arms back and catch a hold. Whether you're taking a monkey grip with the fingers, whether you're throwing the belt around the back and holding onto the belt, or whether you're holding onto the left wrist with your right hand. And then you move forward. Forward over the left leg. Squeeze the inner right thigh against the side body and roll the inner left thigh down as you press the inner left foot forward and the inner right foot down. Then raise the head up. Release your grip. Come out of the pose, right leg forward. Bend up the left leg. Now you could keep the heel in line with its own sitting bone, or you could take the foot out just a little bit wider if you find that it's hard to accommodate the width of your rib cage. But don't turn the foot and the knee out. See if you can keep your foot parallel to the edge of the mat. Then you reach forward. Take the left hand forward, but take the left armpit chest forward with you. So it's not necessarily that you're striving to get this left hand as far forward as you can. It's more the idea of bringing this rib cage inside the leg. Can you get a deep hip flexion? So far forward that you can then press the very top part of that upper arm against the head of the shin. So if you're managing to come that far forward, internally rotate your left arm. Wrap the arm back, and again, whether you take a monkey grip, I like to throw my right hand back. Yes, that momentum helps me to then catch my right wrist with the left hand. If you can't grip, use a belt. Throw a belt behind the back and hold onto the belt with both hands. But then as you come forward over the right leg. Watch that right leg doesn't roll out. So you're rolling inner right thigh down, pressing inner right foot forward, and pressurizing the inner left foot to the floor as the inner left thigh squeezes against the side body. And then you come up, you let go of the grip and stretch your leg forward. We're back in Dandasana. Now we may want to come off our height there. We've got a lot of height. If you feel stiff, it's definitely helpful to use a good amount of height under the buttocks, but as we move on, you might want to just use a two-fold blanket. So again, let's sit in Dandasana. Now for Janu Sirsasana, the head of the knee pose, you can catch the inner right knee, help to soften those tendons there in the back of the knee. Take the knee out to the sides and bring your heel to its own groin. So right heel to the right groin. So the knee, if possible, the knee is moving further back than a 90-degree angle between those knees, if possible. Head of the shin presses to the floor. If it doesn't reach the floor, if there's problems with the knees, maybe you need to put a brick underneath that outer shin and thigh. But we're turning to face the left leg. Let's stretch the right arm up. Now I'm going to go for the reach of the catch of the outer left foot. If you can't reach your foot, you'll use your belt and you hold on to your belt. Inhale. Exhale. You reach forward. Whether you catch the outer left foot with the right hand or whether you've got your belt around the foot and you're holding onto the belt with your two hands, you move the breastbone forward and up to start with and get this right armpit chest forward. Often when we take the right knee back, it means the right side of the chest goes back as well. So our intention is to move that right chest forward, right armpit chest forward. Then as you're ready, you bend the elbow, you draw yourself further forward over the leg. Go on rolling the inner left thigh down as you continue to come forward, and you press the head of the right thigh, the head of the right shin down to help move the right armpit chest forward. And I'm using the left fingertips on the floor here. As I press left fingertips to the floor, I'm orienting my right chest further forward towards the inner right leg. Then if you've got the capacity, you can catch the right wrist with the left hand behind the left foot. Raise the head up, let go your grip, come to sit up. Stretch your right leg forward. Then we catch the inner left knee, so you're helping to switch off those tendons at the back of the leg there behind the knee and draw your knee back. And if possible, you can bring your heel back to its own groin. So if your blanket's in the way, just move it a little bit. Turn it on a slight diagonal so you've got room for that leg. Now if the head of the shin doesn't reach to the floor, because we want to use that as leverage to help move the left chest forward, if it doesn't reach, wedge a rolled up blanket or a brick underneath that shin so that you can press it down. Then turn your chest towards the right leg. Inner right thigh rolls down. Yeah, watch that leg's not flopping out to the side. Stretch the left arm up, lift and lengthen the waist. And as you exhale, reach forward, whether you catch the outer foot with your left hand or you hold on to your belt with your two hands. But you move the sternum forward and up. And feel as you're pressurizing that head of the left shin down, can that help you move the left armpit chest further forward towards your right leg? Then as you're ready, you go further forward, so you bend the left elbow as you're pulling on the foot or you're pulling on the belt. Bring yourself further forward over the leg. Keep rolling inner right thigh down. Use the pressure of the right fingertips on the floor to help you orient the chest. Go on moving the left chest further forward. Then, if you can, you reach the hands, you catch the left wrist with your right hand behind the right foot. And raise the head up. Let go your grip and come to sit up. Straighten your blanket if you have shifted it, and we'll sit in Dandasana. Now we move on to Triang, mukhaikapada, Paschimottanasana. Let's give ourselves a little bit more height. Now I'm going to make a 3-fold blanket. So I fold it over itself there. It's sort of like a squashed up letter S. And I'm going to put that only underneath the left buttock. And then the left leg is straight, but my right leg comes into Virasana. The idea of having the height underneath the left buttock is so that the right buttock can descend and the thighs are the same level, the hips, the pelvis, the same level. So if I'm not using height, sometimes there'll be that lopsidedness. Yeah, it's more challenging to get that right hip down, and then the further forward we come, the more we tend to lean over to the left. So we've got the height there to keep us level and to stop us from leaning over to the left. So do make sure the head of the right shin descends. Roll the inner left thigh down. Yeah, just watching that leg's not rolling out to the side. Stretch the right arm up. Inhale and exhale. Let's reach the right hand to catch the outer left foot, or use your belt around the foot. Breastbone up. Inhale. Exhale. Draw yourself further forward. Now I'm using my fingertips to stabilize and to help press my weight more into the outer right hip. Yeah, if I let go and I wasn't working conscientiously, the weight would tend to want to roll more towards the outer left hip. So as I press left fingertips to the floor, I'm working more to draw that outer right hip down. And as I judge whether I can stabilize myself there with that balance, then I can go with the catch of the right wrist with the left hand, or I can just keep that left fingertip, the setup there with the left fingertips on the floor. So you be the judge. You keep that outer right hip down, inner left thigh down. Then you can raise the head up. Let go your grip. Come out of the pose. Right leg forward, and let's move our blanket so that it's under the right buttock and the left leg is in Virasana. Outer left hip down, inner thighs together, inner right thigh rolls down, inner right foot pushes forward or presses forward. Left arm up, inhale. Exhale, reach to the outer right foot and reassert the lift of the breastbone while you're here. I'm using the right fingertips on the floor to stabilize and to help me transfer my weight back into this outer left hip. Inhale. Exhale. Go further forward. As you come further forward over the legs, continue to use the pressure in the right fingertips to help move weight through this outer left hip. So descend the outer left hip. Then if you feel stable there, you can reach your hands around the foot, catch the left wrist with your right hand. Inner right thigh rolls down. Inner right foot presses forward. And raise the head up. Let go your grip and come to sit up. So we take that Virasana leg out of position. You might like to keep your 3-fold, otherwise you can come back to your 2-fold. And we'll do Paschimottanasana. Legs are forward, legs are together. So we sit straight. Now, we've been doing some pretty deep forward bends. It requires deep flexion in the hips, as considerable flexion in the spine. And early on at the beginning of the class, I was saying if you're particularly stiff in the hamstrings, or if you've got a concern in your lower back, let's say there's a prolapsed disc and you're needing to protect it, you need to stay more in the upright position. You could work with a belt around the feet and work with the strength of your spinal muscles rather than trying to flex forward. So bear that in mind as you're working with these seated forward bends. But if you can go forward, let's reach for the feet, or you can use your belt. We'll start with the length of the front body by taking the arms up. So front body, sides of the body long. Drive the thighs down, head of the thighs down, strong in your legs. Inhale. Exhale, reach forward. Whether you catch the outer feet or you use your belt, you peel the outer feet back towards the outer hips and you press the balls of the big toes forward, away from the groins. And that can help with the inner thighs rolling down. Inhale. Exhale. If you can go further, you pull on the feet, you draw yourself along the thighs. So the abdomen lengthening along the thighs before the head comes down. And then you can catch one wrist with the other hand behind the feet. But don't lose the action of pressing the inner feet forward. Watch the shoulder blades are not creeping into the neck. Now swap the cross. If you're catching one wrist, take the other wrist. The palms are facing away from the feet. The thighs are still pressing down. And the elbows are up, away from the floor to help the armpit chest maintain its length. And then you can raise the head up, let go of your grip, come to sit all the way up. And we just sit for a moment in Dandasana, finding a space of rest, calmness, quietness, steadiness. Now, if you feel fatigued, if the legs are tired, you can lay out for Shavasana. If you like practicing with me, I've got a video library on my website, heatherkitchenyoga.com.au, and I have over 370 classes in that video library. I'm adding to it every week with new classes. There are forward bending classes, back bending classes, there's gentle classes, any kind of category with different focuses you can choose from. I'll put the link for the video library in the description box below. You're welcome to join with a 7-day free trial. That's it for today. Thanks for joining me. For more in-depth teaching, check out the video library on my website, heatherkitchenyoga.com.au. The link is in the description box below.